Yeah. Hey. Okay, cool. Everything is working. I just want to see that the streaming is working. Should be. I see good connection. Show me, show me, show me, show me, show me. Stream is happening. I hate slow computers, man. They make me so angry. Really. I get so angry with slow computers. It's like really, like really like a computer. Yeah, I'm really like a computer. I don't know. Like I don't know how to call it, but yeah. Hey, so just waiting for this. Yeah, great. Excellent collection. Connection is all working. Amazing. So we can continue. Display capture. Goodbye this image. And let's go. Okay, guys, we continue, dear friends. So, Bratan, we continue. Let's go. Yeah, let's do this, guys. Yo, друзья, let's refocus here. Thank you very much. I'm gonna destroy this. Okay, so we were saying that when the whole thing fell apart, we were saying that there are studios where you can record many different things, and there are studios when you can just do specific works, you know. And there are studios like ours, like in here now in Studio A, you can see like we have a large control room. Sorry, a large live room. Not such a big control room. We will talk about all of this slowly. But you see, you have a main like large room that has smaller isolated rooms on the side, so you can be loud, etc. Now, a studio designed for orchestra, like I was telling you, we will go to record orchestras in the second year, in the fourth year, so in year 4. It's super huge. I mean, has anybody of you seen Mosfilm or something? Have you seen that? Yeah, I mean, Mosfilm is like the size of a football stadium or something, kind of. Like, yeah, am I exaggerating? Not a football stadium, sorry, like a football field, like where you play football. Not the whole stadium, but the audio studio. I'm talking the audio studio, yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of like the size of a football field or something. Da. You can also sit back there, bro. Like, I don't know. You will not bother anybody. Okay. Fair enough. All right. So yeah. These full studios, like when a studio is so large, like to record an orchestra, like the larger the studio is, the taller the ceiling is gonna be. Because again, your goal is to get the reflections, not to come back to you, or to control them. There is a studio called CineLab that we will go to one lecture there this year for sure. And in CineLab, you have like an iPad controlled situation where you can change the height of the roof. Like, I mean, there are like acoustic panels, and you can just move them down like closer to you. And also, the whole room has how do you say in Russian, a curtain? Zanavieska, you know, that you can lower and make the whole room less reverberant. CineLab also has isolated recording booths, so you can have like drums put in the big live room and then another set of drums in the small room, and you can record, like, imagine couplet in the small room and prepiev on the big room, stuff like that. Like, yeah, we will record piano, I think, in CineLab. Like, we did this last year, and it's pretty mind blowing. Like, they have a 7.1 barefoot system, so they have 7 barefoots in the room. Barefoot is these speakers that you see here, like, and I mean, they have like everything you can imagine. It's a fantasy land. Is really amazing. I think it's one of the biggest studios in Europe, like by far, by far. I mean, I don't think that you will find something as big as this, maybe in Berlin and then in London. Like, it's really huge. CineLab is a very special place. We will go there. So, okay, great. Now, there are, of course, studios that are designed to produce video and film dialogues, and they're smaller just to record some vocals and stuff, and that's all cool. These are all studios, and they're all form part of the family of studios, so you can either have, this is kind of like a multifunctional, multi-purpose studio, but you don't record orchestras here. This is too much for just recording some vocals or dialogue, so that's why we also have Studio B, you see. Like, so when somebody writes me a message, I want to work with you, my answer is, okay, I give you 3 prices, like Studio B, Studio A, and major studios. And if you want a more quality and higher level, we go to major studios. If you want like a second best, I call it Lexus, Toyota, and Hyundai. It's like that, just like Lexus, Toyota, and Hyundai. Just choose. And then there is Lada too, but yeah, that's another story. So this is really interesting that I find out when I was doing this little research. Like in the 70s, you see, like the philosophy of how a recording studio should be changed dramatically in the last 30 years, because there was not a big understanding. Like really, all the things that we are doing are super new and super modern. There is not like, a guy in France in the 16th century who was recording something because there was just no microphones, nothing. It's all like 100 years old. It's really new. And in the 70s, it was only like 40 years old, the whole thing. So it's super new. And so people really didn't understood what to do with the reflections, how to treat acoustically a room, how to make something logical. So in the 70s, the approach was to make a very dry room and then to put reverb and ambience after in post-production. So that's why those recordings from the 70s sound so dry and they're so different than the recordings that we make now. Because you see, like during the 70s, studios were generally small because of the invention and overuse of artificial effects. The rooms were acoustically dead on purpose. When for example, when we were downstairs, Timofey was telling me, like, yeah, everything sounds like this because of absorption. Like your natural reflection or imagination is that studios want to be places where all the sound that is generated is kind of absorbed by the walls. Like this is a normal beginner's imagination. Like because you wanted the room to be neutral, so you're kind of trying. I mean, I'm telling you that I imagine that maybe some of you think like this or used to think like this before. I don't know. It's like a room needs to absorb everything, so the room is like kind of like trapping the sound, so the sound doesn't come back. And that's really not how you want to make a room like this. You want the room to flow, but you want the room to flow in a way that it's optimal for this position where I'm sitting here, for the listening position. And how do you do that? Well, you plan all of this. To those of you who are in the sound engineering path, you will have an elective this year called audio acoustics and studio design. And so you're going to study how to design a studio. This is given by a guy called Sergei Praskuryakov that is a super expert on this. Actually, he was one of the people, I may be wrong, okay, sorry for this if I'm wrong, but I think he was one of the people who designed CineLab, actually. So he's really pro at this. If I'm wrong, sorry for that, but certainly one of the major studios of Russia was designed by him. So you see, like the basic concept was to eliminate as much as the original acoustic environment possible and replace it with artificial ambience. And you see, it's so beautiful how much the creation of music and the relationship that we have with technology affects the sound of the epochs and the possibilities of each epoch. Like all those 70s things, listen to Phil Collins, like any Phil Collins recording, and you're gonna see that it doesn't sound like as if you're inside a room. It sounds like it sounds like as if you're inside a rack unit, like, I mean, an effects unit. Like it sounds like this lexicon reverbs and all of that. Like it's because people didn't used to work with the ambience of the room. But nowadays the modern philosophy is very different. And I love this. It's actually interesting. We became more technological, but the modern sound engineer wants to use the room as much as possible and to use the reverberation of the room as much as possible. That's a really cool thing that I didn't thought about. So usually studios have a control room. Sorry that this is like really shitty, but I don't know why it looks like that. Usually studios have a control room. This is where we are right now. So it's the place where you're making critical listening and assessing what's happening in the live room, or the studio, they call it like that here. The live room. So musicians are there, you are here, musicians are doing something, you're listening to what musicians are doing here, musicians are listening to what you're doing here, there. And it's all happening in real time. So if we think about the control room alone, so it has several purposes. Like ideally the control room is acoustically isolated from the other room, like I was telling you. In here, in Piatti, the isolation is better than in Piervi, because the cables here are going under the floor, but in Piervi we had to open a hole in the wall. That's why the isolation is not so good in Piervi. We had to actually physically open a hole because we couldn't pass the cables under. Because it was harder. We didn't have the money for that. But in here, this studio was really built. I mean, this room was absolutely a loft for sure. There was nothing here, and we built box and box. I mean, we built like boxes inside boxes. You will see a time lapse now how it's done, and it's a lot better isolated. It's not perfect still. Like you sit down here, and if there is a bass player playing there, you still feel the rumble a bit. but we're not perfect. And like I told you once, there is something I don't like about this studio very much, that I don't like about Studio A, which is that it is on a 5th floor. And that means that some of the energy is sent downwards to the neighbors downstairs, but it doesn't come back, that energy. And my game is to capture that energy. I mean, it's kind of like if I flash a light and I'm trying to capture all that light, but then I don't know, like we're in an open space, and so the light is just going somewhere else, and it's harder for me to capture it. So part of the energy of this room gets dissipated upwards and downwards. That's why it's really cool when a studio is on the sokal or on the ground floor, because the energy is sent down to rock, and the rock sends it back, and it stays in the room. The Pierby studio is also not on top of rock. It's on top of another floor. There is a factory down there. And so it's not ideal. But major studios, for example, is in a sokal. You were there, I think. Some of you were there with me. And there you can feel like it's very solid and massive how it sounds. Not massive because it's a small room, but it's very solid. So ideally, these two rooms are isolated, and it's really, of course, important when you build a control room that you have a position that is a listening position, and then that position is really well treated to the whole room, and that the speakers are pointing towards a certain place. I mean, the actual listening position is a super important thing. And the majority of the equipment is in the control room, and in the control room is where you have a console, obviously. Not all studios have a console. Not all studios need a console nowadays. The console has been replaced by that type of system that you see down there. We will explore that later. That's the 500 series. Like, we will talk about that a lot. But yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, you will have a console, like, because consoles are really amazing, but they're really expensive. So this is an actual control room in Texas. This is Sonic Ranch in El Paso. Let me tell you a really cool story about this studio in particular. There is a band called Swans that maybe some of you know. And yes, and so if I have told you this story in the past, just stop me or something, and I will not repeat it. I don't remember if I have told it to you, but it's a very important story for our lives. So the last 2 shows that Swan played in Moscow, like, we did all the background sound for this show. Like, I mean, we provided all the amps, and Ilya did the monitors, and we were kind of like the backline providers. Backline in sound engineering means instruments and amps. So we were the backline providers for the last 2 shows of Swans. And when the album To Be Kind came out, like, this really touched our souls, like, very much, to all of us. And so when the album came out, then we were invited to work on the show. So we were like, fuck yeah, like, let's go, you know. So we went to work on the show, and I'm telling you, I'm 0% fanboy. I'm not a guy who is like, oh my god, you are this person, you know. I don't give a shit. It's like, for me, you guys or whatever, Johnny Greenwood is the same. I just don't care. But meeting Michael Giro had, like, some special mysticism for sure. Like, I mean, this was the type of person that you feel like very small next to him, you know. He's a really special guy. So this whole night of working with them was really spiritual for all of us. And apart from that, the show was incredible, and it was really amazing. And again, this is all connected, so bear with me, okay? It's a bit of a long story, but it's connected. And the album To Be Kind was recorded in Sonic Ranch, in this studio, in this particular studio. And so one day, imagine the show happened, and 2 months later, we were sitting downstairs in the Studio B when it was destroyed, because the Studio B was, there was a version 1 of Studio B. We destroyed it totally. It was amazing. Like, we grew up like industrial hammers and just had like the best fun in the world, just destroying the studio, like, to build it again. And so the whole studio was destroyed except for the live room. The live room was like where the instruments were today. It was kind of similar to how it looks now. We didn't touch it. We destroyed everything in there because there didn't used to be a window in between the 2 rooms. There was a whole reasons why we destroyed it. So imagine the whole room is destroyed. It looks like a bomb exploded there 5 minutes ago or something. And some guy comes in, some random guy, and in there, down there, where you were there now. And we're like, and the guy was like, hi, sorry, I don't speak Russian. And we're like, okay, where are you from? My name is Charles. I'm from Texas. And we're like, what the hell are you doing here? I mean, like, why are you in this room? I mean, we're just like super randomly here. And he was like, no, the thing is that I work in Sonic Ranch. And I recorded a Russian band there that came to Sonic Ranch to record, some rich guys from Moscow who flew there to record an album. And now they want to play a show in Moscow, and they flew me here to play as a session drummer for them. This is a band called I don't remember the name right now. I'll tell you later. It's not a famous band. It's some guys that have a lot of money. And we were like, wow, you work in Sonic Ranch. Like, what albums have you recorded? And he was like, well, maybe you have heard To Be Kind by Swans. It was like, no fucking way. I mean, what are you doing here? Like, the actual person who recorded To Be Kind just it was 2 months after we did the show of Swans. Like, and then he entered to our studio. Like, we're like, what the hell are you? So we're actually really good friends with Charles Godfrey. It's one of the head engineers in Sonic Ranch. And we were always having a dream to take all the DTH crew and fly to Sonic Ranch to make a masterclass there or something so we can learn, but it's just too expensive. What did you want to say?
It was during your session of destroying the studio?
We were kind of like, I remember we were resting. I mean, imagine we were destroying like for 3 hours, and then we were just like having lunch or something. Like
recklessly destroying.
Yeah. Like imagine that you grab a hammer now and your goal is to destroy everything.
And
like
smash a window, smash a wall.
Yeah, everything. We were.
Wild.
I'll find a photo. There is a photo of these
and
days
he
there.
just came in and
Because he
I
was.
heard of you.
He was going to have a repa in our live room. Like, I mean, this band, these guys are our friends. These guys that went to record in Sonic Ranch, and they had booked our live room as a repa baza. And it's just a coincidence that Charles Godfrey came to us.
Wow.
So that's where Charles worked. And actually, Charles' story is pretty cool. Like, it's typical American dream thing, because in America, this kind of things really do happen. Like, Charles Godfrey was working in a guitar center. Do you know this shop? He was working in Guitar Center in the USA, and then this old guy came to buy something in there, and Charles was very kind to him, and the old guy was like, hey, you know, I own Sonic Ranch, like, do you want to come with me to check out the studio? And he went from working in Guitar Center to be the head engineer of Sonic Ranch, like, just because of that. Like, this kind of things happened in the USA. So anyways, this is the same. This is the new room of Sonic Ranch. It's a really incredible place. And actually Sonic Ranch has a really cool thing. Like, if you later go to their website, I recommend you to check it out. Like, this is like in the middle of the desert in Texas, in El Paso, and you can book the studio, and also, of course, you will book like a little house to live or something. Like, I mean, there, so they have several. It's like a whole hotel / studio thing, and the hotel rooms have connectors to connect microphones in them that go to the live room in like a kilometer far away or some shit like that. I don't know how far away, like 700 meters or something. So, because I mean, very famous people go to record there, and like, I mean, Johnny Cash has recorded there and things like that. And maybe the artist woke up and it's like, I want to make my takes today from my room, whatever. And they can do that. I mean, they can just connect everything up. No, I'm sure that they have done it pretty well. So yeah. So I guess that no, I mean, I said I don't know this place. I said whatever number, maybe 600 meters. I don't know, but maybe 1 kilometer. I don't know. Yeah, it's like in another place. It's not physically there. And actually, when you see the photos of their rooms, like, notice you will see like on the side, like they have the connectors for the microphones like there. So anyways, this is Air Studios in London. In here, many legendary records were made, and I mean, this is, you see, like, this is a very different approach, right? Like, this is more like desert / hippie / you know. This is Texas, exactly. This is more, and it's, I mean, of course, this is closer to how I like things as a human being, and
because it's very random.
Yeah, and also this randomness helps. This randomness helps the movement of signals around. I mean, this is really acoustically designed and really clever.
Materials.
Yeah, of course, absorption and reflection at the same time and all of that. And this is like super like clean England, you know. Everything is very in the place, you know, perfect. No unexpected things, you know. Everything is just really in the place. This is Electric Lady in New York, and I have personally a story with Electric Lady. Like, I was walking around in New York one day. I didn't know where Electric Lady was, and you know, I was like, in my side glance, I passed a door, and it's like Electric Lady. I was like, holy shit, like. And so I knocked the door. I knocked the door just like tick tick tick, and this guy opened the door, and I was like, hi. This is Electric Lady, right? Like, yeah, can I come and see the studio? And he was like, absolutely not, and closed the door in my face. And I was like, I'll be back here one day. You will see. We will talk again, sir. But yeah, I was not letting. And so this is, I mean, there is a famous Jimi Hendrix record called Electric Ladyland, and record is called like that because of this studio. So you see, like, studios are a really important part of culture, and like Abbey Road album of the Beatles, for example, like it's named after a studio. Like there's still not a DTH Studios album. Like it should exist, but at the moment I haven't seen it. So, and this is Electric Lady as well. This is the Studio B of Electric Lady. And by the way, notice this on the back and notice this on the back. I mean, you see, we're like Electric Lady. Great. We only yeah, we only don't have this like 64 channel SSL console, but whatever. We have the diffuser. So, and then this is Abbey Road, again, very English, very like, oh my god, super clean and blue and all like, oh, and you see it has this like triple system here. So they have, these are their near fields and these are their far fields. So when you hear this word, what you're listening, when I tell you near fields are speakers who are close to you, and far fields are speakers who are further away. In this studio right now, we don't have two sets of speakers because we sold them recently and we haven't changed them yet. But that's kind of the vibe. And this is another studio inside Abbey Road. This is like Abbey Road. No, it's like next to a window or something. That would be cool, by the way. And I'm sure it exists. I'm sure it exists.
Looks like it's in a swimming pool.
And actually, what you see here, like this is kind of like that system, the 500 series.
Actually, water can absorb sound.
Yeah, so you can put a studio on the water.
Technical idea.
Actually,
isolate.
absolutely. To make some like weird, acoustic treatment. I want to show you one more studio that I didn't put here. I want to show you a different kind of studio. This is more like DTH in New Jersey. I mean, because this was not built by major investors and people with a lot of money and shit. Like, I mean, this was all paid from our pocket. And I don't know if some of you may have heard a band called the Dillinger Escape Plan. The Dillinger Escape Plan, kind of in the same way. Wait, I think it's here. In the same way as we work with Swans, like when Dillinger came to Moscow, like this has happened to us a lot. That's why I work with Johnny Greenwood, with Swans, with the Dillinger Escape Plan, with Converge. Like, yeah, it was all like that. It was always like I was sitting here, and then there was a Prakat. Like we need to take amps there, and I was like, yeah, I'll go. And so when Dillinger came to Moscow, the guitarist of Dillinger Escape Plan is the head engineer of this studio. And so we always like, like, hey man, nice to meet you. Like, this is some really cool local beer, let's have some beer and stuff. Like, we made a lot of connections like this in this job. And so you see, this is a different kind of modern studio. You don't see a console here. You see a lot of 500 series there. Like this thing that you see down there. I will explain you later what that is. But that's a different approach to making a recording studio. This is what I'm showing you there. You see it down there? Like that thing down there? This is called 500 series. Like, I'll explain you what that is later, okay? But that's a modern replacement of the console. Like, this is what's coming after consoles. I'll explain you what that means later and what is that. We will discuss it very carefully. But anyways, this is another type of studio, back room, and yeah, it's really cool as well. And yeah, so let's move on from here. The toilet. Look, there is... No, it's not outside somewhere. Ты знаешь или нет? To not interrupt so much the lecture, let's do it like this. No. I'll tell you how to do it. Please, when you're going to the door, on the right-hand side, on top of the shoes, there is a little thing that says Marshall, like a Marshall amplifier, that has a key. You follow me? Yeah. Take that key and go to our neighbors and ask to our neighbors, how do I get to the toilet? And they will explain you. Okay? It's easier, really. If not, I'm going to have to spend like 10 minutes of the lecture to show you that. So take the key and go to that place. Okay. So great. I mean, we have discussed right now the control room only. And I have shown you some examples of control rooms and things that are in the world. And now I want to talk one moment about the recording console. And like this, we will be going and seeing all the parts of the studio, like this first kind of theoretical side of our lectures. We're going to be seeing all the parts of the studio and understand what is this. So okay, obviously you have here a recording console. This is a DNR Cinemix. It's a console made in Holland. And I mean, the role of the console really is, it's kind of like you have to understand that all recording studios, the first version of recording studios were conceived in a moment where there were no DAWs, kind of. And so when you have your Ableton or Logic, you know that you have there a lot of EQs, a lot of compressors. You know there that if you want to make something louder, you can do it with your DAW. You know that you can add some special effects, whatever. So, okay, imagine that you don't have a computer. Like, how do you do that? So you build a thing like this, who has EQs, preamps, who has, because also you do something in your DAW which you take for granted, which is like, I'm going to send this track here, and then I'm going to put a reverb here, and then I'm going to send this track back here, and then I'm going to record this. Like, okay, fine. How do you do this without a computer? And so that's why you need a desk, you know, because a desk helps you to move signals from one place to the other. And also it has a preamp, so it can make the signal larger, and it has equalizers, so you can filter the signals. Some consoles have compressors inside of them. This particular console, it's a broadcast console. It's not a musical console. It's a console designed to like TV channels and stuff. It's just like when you buy gear, you know, you kind of like have a dream, and then you have a certain amount of money that limits your dream. And then you also have the market. I mean, what actually you can find there. I mean, I wanted to buy, I mean, this is not mine. Ilya bought this console. Like, I wanted to buy, I don't know, an API console or a Neve console or whatever. But first, it was more expensive. And secondly, there was not available in the market. So when we went to buy that console, we had 1 million rubles. This was in 2016, I think. We had 1 million rubles. And this was being sold by some high school in Baumanskaya. Like they had like a recording studio in the high school, and so they were selling this console, and we just bought it and brought it here, and it helped us a lot, because you see, like next week we will discuss what are preamps and what exactly are those guys that you see down there, the preamps down there, like, so these are devices, like, of course, these are devices that make, like, you know, signals, like the signal of this microphone. You see, this microphone has not a battery in it, right? It's just like some active thing that is there vibrating with my voice, and it's sending a very tiny electrical signal. So I need a device that makes that electrical signal large enough so a computer can actually write a code about what that signal is. Да. This is это передусилитель, верно? Это усиляет signal. It makes a signal larger in some sense. And why do I want the signal to be large enough? So it can be recorded. It's like, try to imagine that. Haven't you noticed that sometimes you send a photo on Telegram, but from your computer, but maybe the photo is too small, and then the other person opens it and it looks like all like pixelated. You know what I mean? Like if I would try to record this without a preamp, it would be similar to that process. Like, you will have this thing that is too small for it to be digitized. And then the system that is trying to digitize it is going to make mistakes, and then it's going to look or sound pixelated like that. So you need to have a device before the arrival to the computer that prepares the signal so the sound card can codify that into code. And in the tape times, you needed to have enough energy so the tape can be magnetized. We will discuss all of these things carefully. So the reason why I'm talking to you about preamps is because I'm talking about the console. Each one of those preamps, you see, this console costed 1 million rubles, right? In its moment. Right now it should be like 2 million or something, like this console. Now, one of those preamps can cost 200,000 rubles, just one. Only one, right? And here, all of these red knobs that you see up here are preamps. So I bought, or Ilya bought, 32 preamps for 1 million rubles, right?
I have like a question.
Yeah.
How much do you spend in total?
In DTH, it's like 20 million rubles, kind of. It's totally.
Get this money back from recordings?
Yeah. I mean, we got it back. Look, like, I can tell, like, in terms of dividends that we have generated, like, I mean, prebull. Since 2015 till now, I think the prebull is like maybe 2 million rubles. So we don't recover our investment like that. But the way but for example, I have been making kind of like 2 million rubles a year as an engineer from this place. Not like prebull, but because of my work. I know that this is not a good way to read pre-build because that's not pre-build, but the way I see it was like I still have the gear, I can sell it, you know, and I built my own workspace. So we were happy of not recovering our investment because we built our own working space. So that was okay for us. This year's, for example, since 2015 until now, we have generated like 2 million rubles of pre-bill. This year alone will be 1 million because of all of you guys. I mean, because of MMS, because MMS hires a lot of hours from us, and that's great. I mean, that really helps us. Of course. Yeah, I mean, every hour of work that you will book here, MMS pays every hour, and that includes the price of the Arjani. Of the Arjani, you were not there when I explained it. It's the babysitter. It's the person that will help you to assist you. So that includes the price of the Arjani and the price of everything. And
When we will book the hours, they will sit there.
they will be here with you. And if you don't know how to do anything, they will help you. If you want to do everything alone, they will just sit down there and not talk until. And if you have a problem, they will help you. Yeah, of course. No, because we cannot just open all this gear to you like that without help, because it's dangerous. I think that you need to return this chair, Bradan. Yeah. Okay. So did you find the bathroom was okay? Did you got the key? Everything was cool. Cool. Perfect. Great. Mm-hmm. Da. Da. I guess so. I think Cinelab. I think the cost of building Cinelab, I think it will be 1,000 million rubles or something. It's 1 billion rubles. Because Cinelab has inside a film theater with a 96 channel console in the middle where you can mix films in the size of a film theater. It's like the size of going to the movies. And Cinelab has Dolby systems. They have everything is to the maximum level. If I would be super rich, bro, I would just build the most badass studio in the world and don't give a fuck about recovering this money because it's really cool. That's one reason. No, but I think also there are film fund from the government must be involved there. I'm sure that they haven't recorded the investment, and I'm sure that now they are shitting their pants financially because imagine all the films productions left. It's really difficult times for them. But anyways, back to this. So okay, so we're talking about the console. So you see, I explained you a bit about the console. I told you a couple of things, hey, the console has all these preamps, the console has all these EQs, the console has all these ways of sending the signal.
When you buy it, you should buy Edmonds,
No.
or you can buy a recording console with.
Remember downstairs when we were talking about the kistechki, to paint? So I told you that there are two parts, the lower part and the higher part. If you have a console, you have only one type of preamp. And it means, imagine in this system that I'm describing to you that you have you can change the lower part and the upper part, you will only have one type of lower part. You don't have many. And then you can have many upper parts, which will be the microphones, right? So you'd really want to have different types of lower parts. So you start buying preamps, so you have different, the correct way to say this is flavor. Wkus.
Every recording console always have one.
Every gun will have its own color, its own signature.
I said about recording console. So every recording console has a preamp.
Yes, of course. It's and it's usually the uppermost knob. Whenever I go to a console, I automatically know that this is the preamp module. In the next lecture or in some lectures ahead, I think we will see how it looks when you open a console from inside and what's the side section of it and what's inside there, and you will see that. You will see that always the preamp module is at the top, kind of it's just like a standard of consoles. So everybody can come to a different console and just know how to operate it immediately. But then you start recording and you're like, wouldn't it be nice to have a Neve flavor on these vocals? And then you buy a Neve preamp. So, but again, like a console complex you all of that in one complex, like it makes it like a combo. And so you kind of like comparatively, if you were going to buy 32 Neve preamps, you will spend like $200,000 or something. But if you will buy a Neve console, you will spend like $80,000. Something like that. It's a lot of money anyways, but okay. So you see the recording console, it's like the artist palette, like you know, the painter is going to use some paint, and it's the artist palette of the recording engineer, producer, musician. It lets you combine. Combine, this is really important that they put the word combine there. Combine is like to join together. Combine, control, and distribute the input and output signals of most, if not all, the devices found in the control room. And actually, in this control room, it's like that. This console comes together with something called a patch bay that you see there, where you don't see it because the patch bay is this thing back here. It's like a routing matrix, also called. It's like a routing matrix. And so all of those preamps are connected to that routing matrix. So we can move signals from here to there, from there to here, from here to there, everywhere. So the console basics functions lets you to mix as well. Do spatial positioning. You can do panning here as well. You can also do surround sound control. Like, I mean, there are consoles that have like a 5.1 or 7.1 system. Some consoles have automation function. It's just like, it's super obsolete. I mean, like, it really exists. It's just like those systems were developed like in the 90s, early 2000s. And they're super expensive to maintain. So they're kind of like, you rarely find a console that has it's called robotized faders. It's really like expensive to keep it, and it's not worth it really. Like, you can do all these automations in Pro Tools and just run the signal through the console. So, and routing, so I can move signals around. So this is all in one place, and that's really comfortable. Now, yes.
For recording. Right now we like have connection between Pro Tools or like
yes.
DAW and recording console. So recording console right now is playing the function of what? The highest it's playing the quality of sound. Why do we need recording console?
Look, in your mental scheme, you are missing one key point, which is, where do you actually record? I mean, because you were saying in the 70s you used consoles, but you never talk about the tape machine. So the console it's a step. The console is connected to the tape machine. So you can actually record what's happening in there into the tape machine. So we replaced now the tape machine with a computer. So the console occupies the same role as in the 70s. It's just a way to amplify signals and to send it to the computer. Yeah. So, I mean, in the 70s, you could also record without a console, but you could not record without a tape machine. You need a tape machine, because where are you going to actually record? The console has no memory. But the tape machine has memory in the form of tape. So you were actually using the console to receive the signal from the live room, amplify it, equalize it, compress it, and send that to the tape machine. Nowadays, the console occupies the exact same function. It's just like what is at the end is not a tape machine, but a computer.
So in the studio we have like analog sound,
Da.
like natural, and to take it to the DAW, we need to take it to digitalize.
You need to digitalize it. That's the function of the sound card.
The sound card.
Mm-hmm.
Here the sound card is patch bay or what?
The sound card is down there. It's a sound card. It's an actual sound card. It's an antelope audio. Yeah, it's like this sound card, but it's better. It's not like sound card. You know, look at this setup. Like, you see, what do I have here? I have a microphone. I have a cable. I have a preamp in here. There's a preamp. It's just like it's a part of the sound card.
So like the basic scheme is always.
It's always the same.
But everything is like inside.
Gets more expanded upwards. And like I was telling you, like, imagine the difference of quality. Like, this console has 32 preamps, right? And it costs 1 million rubles. But one of those preamps, only one, costs 200,000 rubles. So it's kind of like a million for 32 or 200,000 for one. So you get a better quality from that preamp that is there. And also, that's one of the reasons why you invest on them. You have better preamps than others. It's just like you don't have infinite money. If you have infinite money, you just put great preamps everywhere, and that's great. But I mean, we don't have that money. I mean, everything that you see here was bought either by Ilya or by me. Like, and all the pliashki, all the air conditioning. You know, it's like, oh, it's too hot. We need to spend 70K to put a freaking conditioner. Like, oh, it's like the toilet is shitty. We need to spend 400,000 rubles in making a freaking toilet. Like, so there are all this. The toilet downstairs was kind of like 300,000 rubles to build it, because we had to break walls and build a whole lot of stuff, move water and that. Triste. Короче, okay. So okay, now check this out. This is an important thing, and in CineLab is really relevant. So tape machines, like this one or a bigger one. I mean, of course, if you see, for example, Electric Lady, like that's a 24 channel tape machine right there on the back. That one there. And if you see, I don't know, in the Studio B, like in Abbey Road, maybe in Abbey Road they have it in another room, like it should be. So this is what I wanted to see. There is something called in a studio the machine room, and in CineLab it's really like that. If you go there, you will see it. Tape machines are usually located inside the control room, and the DAW are also located inside the control room. But because tape machines and computers and things make noise, usually there is another room when you put all the equipment, all the machines, and then you don't have the machines with you in the same room. Because why? And but how? What is the correct way to say it? We said it downstairs.
Noise ratio.
Signal to noise ratio, because of the signal to noise ratio. Like sitting down here, like I hear the sound extraction system. Not the sound, sorry, the air. You hear it? Like, that's absolutely bad. I mean, it shouldn't be like that. And actually, when you're building a freaking studio, there are these like silent sound air extraction systems that cost like 4 times more than the usual ones. And these are places where we just didn't have money to invest on that, and we had to buy the regular one, and that's why the studio had that noise. Like, I mean, on the other hand, we cost 2,000 rubles per hour nowadays, not with me but with another engineer. So I mean, we're also accessible for other clients that couldn't go to CineLab, and that's good. I mean, we're a niche. It's like, it doesn't mean that it's terrible, but Lana. So okay, I'm telling you that there is usually something called the machine room, and in CineLab, if you tell to the head engineer there, like, can you please open Telegram, he will tell you no, and you're like, why? Because this computer is not connected to the internet. The computer of the studio is not connected to the internet. It doesn't have internet connection at all, because they don't want any isolation. They don't want you to get distracted on anything. It's just like, you don't surf the web here. Then you ask, okay, fine, can you please load this file into the computer, and you give him a flashka, and he has to go downstairs to another room, and that's where the computers are. They're not inside the room, because you don't want to hear the fans of the computer, because you don't want to hear the computer saying, you don't want to hear anything. You just want to hear the signal. And that's, you see, like, all in foundation and all this time I was talking to you about this tradition, all of that, like, that's all of it what I mean. Now I'm going to spend 1 year just showing you all of those aspects, you know, because it's impossible to imagine from those lectures that we were having there. I was telling you something, but you will feel how serious it is the moment you will go to CineLab and try to copy something in a flashka, and you will have to go to another floor. And that's how it should be, in my opinion. Okay, so great. There is something called the machine room, and there is something that we're almost done, by the way, with all this theoretical part. There is something called the signature of the room that you need to understand. Like, you see, my voice here sounds a bit different downstairs, I'm sure. Like, I don't know what you're experiencing, but I'm sure that
If you will close the door,
can you close the door, Bratan? Yeah, do it, please do it. Yeah, you will feel it right away. Like, this room is brighter than downstairs. It's more fast. That's a jargon of sound engineers. It's a faster room because it has less absorption than downstairs. Downstairs there is a lot of this tkань that you see here, this fabric, but downstairs has a lot more, and here is more reverberant and fast. So look, every control room usually have its own unique sound, feel, and comfort factor, and studio booking rate, like how much busy it is. Commercial control rooms, they have different design and amenities, and well, I mean, basically what it's telling you there is that the control room is like, you know, when you grab a Gibson guitar, you have a certain feel, you know, and you're like, oh yeah, this is a guitar I like. when you sit in a control room, he's also like, yeah, this is the control room I like, and you get in love with it. I used to be the type of engineer that only works in one studio, and I broke that and after the quarantine started, and I started working anywhere, and I love that. I find that really cool. But there are people who just like to work in one place. So okay, so let's check out this little video. It's like a 4-minute time lapse, very fast, of two guys building a studio. So okay, the first thing you will see there is that they put this like kind of like rubber blocks on the floor to separate the floor from the floor. So you're creating like a room inside a room, right? And then you will see that they put this plywood on top, and so that's actually called a flying room. It's called like that. It's like flying floor. Sorry, it's called flying floor. You see, the floor actually doesn't touch the real floor. And the reason is as well is because, you know, whenever there is a gap of air, that's why there are two windows. Because when sound, if you remember something from the lectures we had about theory of sound last year, I told you about a phenomenon called diffraction, which is like sound is coming into one type of medium from air to glass to air again, from glass again to air again. Like when sound is coming from that room to here, imagine it's coming, then flying through glass, then flying through air, then flying through glass again. Glass. Every time it flies through a different material, it changes direction. So it means that there is a vector coming like that, then the glass maybe sends it downwards, then the air maybe sends it frontwards, and then the new set of glass sends it upwards. And the resulting effect is that it becomes attenuated, so it becomes quieter. So you want to create gaps of air in between things that you want to isolate. It's really useful. That's one of the reasons why it's flying room. Sorry for that. No, where are you going? Here. Sorry. So I'm gonna comment on this, but I'll try to not interrupt it so much. I hate this interface, but anyways, I cannot make it. This computer is killing me. Sorry, guys. Can I please make you work? Yeah, well, I want to make it full screen, but he's not letting me for some reason. It's trying there, but yeah, we made it. Okay. So, and you see, like, after that, that's not even the floor. They're going to build, and our studio was built exactly like this. Like, there is like a block, then plywood, and then that's the actual floor. You see, and in between here, there is a gap of air again. So you have two gaps of air, and you're trying to keep the energy inside the room. So exactly like you're seeing how they're lifting off the walls there, like this is exactly how we did. You see, this is a block of gypsy carton, and then you build inside the frame, and then you have to lift that motherfucker. It's super heavy, and then you put it in place, and you build a whole frame. There you go, like clack. And just like that, you see, like this is a loft where there was nothing. Exactly like that was this room. There was a loft, there was nothing, and we were lifting. Well, I mean, I'm saying I was not here when that was happening. That was before I moved to Russia. They were doing that, my partners. And when I came to Russia, we destroyed Studio B, and we did the new Studio B. So okay, you're seeing this like they're gonna lift another wall here. Great. Then they're gonna close that wall. Then I'm gonna tell you this guy's praying or whatever. And so they're doing the roof in kind of the same principle. There's all this casing going on, and cutting wood. They're gonna make another. This is the other side. I mean, behind us, it's the structure that you already saw them building. They're making, that was like the control room and the live room. You see, they're building like two separate rooms, and they're making tests. At this point, they brought their gear, and they start rehearsing there to feel like, how is it sounding right now? Like, what do we need to correct for something? And maybe they will correct. They brought different drum kits, you see, so they can hear. The same was done here, exactly the same. So, okay, they're going to build another room there. I guess, like, again, that's the control room, and you see, like, that's one room and the second one. And they're going to put glass there later. So, got some delivery of wood. Man, and we bought wood. It was crazy. They got their desk, their mixing desk. You see, they just put it in. Um, and there is an interesting moment coming soon. I mean, these guys, you see, they're bringing something that in English is called rock wool. In Russian, this is called акустическая. What? It's not. It's not stiklavata. Stiklavata is there is another name. Huh? Ah, da. And it's not stiklavata. There is another word for this that is. I don't remember exactly in Russian what it's called right now.
I remember also. I know the
Yeah. In English, it's called rock
yeah,
wool.
it's rock wool.
It's rock wool. It's a kind of material that has inside of it little particles of sand, like, and so when sound is arriving to it, this material is made like of cotton, like cotton of your shirt, like wool. It's made of wool. Да, есть стекловато, это типа токсическая ужасная версия. Типа это я сейчас просто не помню, как сейчас. Yeah. I just don't remember. Anyways, the function of this material is to absorb sound, and then those little particles that are inside scatter sound in different directions. Да, наверное. Каменная вата is something like that. It's something like that. Каменная вата. Минеральная вата. It's exactly минеральная вата. Yeah, it's exactly минеральная вата. Huh? Minvata. It's exactly минеральная вата. So they are bringing their минеральная вата, and now you will see stiklavata. There is a lot of parts of the studio that are built with stiklavata, and this is super toxic to build with this because you breathe all this glass. Ah. Кайф. 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 No, there is a lot of things in this studio which were built with stiklavata because it was at the beginning and it's terrible material. Like it's a horrible material. So anyways, check this out. So they're gonna get this rock wool there. This this is all the rock wool, and you see they're gonna fill up all those gaps that they were building there with rock wool. And the same is happening behind this can. If I will cut this and show you what's inside there, you will see it's like you grab rock wool and you cover it with like a plastic, just like so it's not like air, like sending this into these particles into the air, and then you fill up all those gaps with that material. So they're going to be doing that for a while. You see, like we did exactly that. It's a super long process. You grab all of this, and then after that, maybe you put wood, and you block it like a wall. But you need to have this in between walls. This also helps you with isolation. And then you see they put there another thing of gypsy carton, or maybe plywood. Some of the studios are made with plywood. So, but behind there was the acoustic foam, the Mineralная вата. You see, and they brought their instruments and made another test. And well, at this point, I guess I'm going to skip a bit. They're already painting. Like, okay, that's really cool. They painted their own stuff. They're like making like the floor more cool. So they're kind of like just treating the floor. We did the same here. And then they're putting the glass. They're going to put double glass. And the glass is usually in an angle for what I told you, to make sure that the diffraction just sends the signal somewhere else. And then they finally can have the room here and test it. And you see they have their console in there already. And this is all the things that they're doing here. It feels very similar to how it all was all here. And that's kind of where it ended. I guess they have a tape machine, you see, like, and then they build some other stuff. There, it's also like a process to build things. You don't have them ready from the first day. And this is their live room. You remember, it was like a triangle kind of thing. And then they brought their orange amps, and they're happy. So, okay, that's kind of where I wanted to stop for today. The next lecture, I think, maybe I will hold these videos that I want to show you for later. My goal, the next lecture, is to get you, it's going to be a little practice, and I'm doing this a bit different than last year, but I want to get you to work right away so you can feel at home here. So the next lecture will be, again, we're going to make a little очередь, and then I'm going to be putting like a mic there, and we're going to get a signal from the mic to the DAW, and from the DAW to the vocalist. I think that we're going to do this lecture twice, the same lecture. One in Studio B, and the other one up here. I want you to use Studio B at the beginning, really. So I think I'm going to put a limitation, like maybe on the first semester, something like that. You can only use Studio B. That's on purpose, because it's kind of like when you play Grand Theft Auto, you know, the levels kind of open up. They don't have you don't have them all open from the beginning, and I think that's a good thing. I will try to make these lectures be 3 hours, because I really think it's better. Imagine 1.5 hours here, we can't do anything. But it depends on the schedule of the school, so I don't know what it was going to happen with that. Okay? So yeah, I think it's a good place to stop, and the studio has been introduced.